We're going to take a look at James Taylor's one 12-bar. He might have more, but this was, of course, from his second album, Sweet Baby James, Steamroller Blues. Now, on one hand, it's straight 12-bar blues in the key of E, capoed to the third fret, so it's really in G, and that was just because where he wanted to sing it, as he does lots of his songs capoed two, three, or four. But what I've decided to do with this is first we're just going to talk about standard 12-bar blues and the main little vamp, which I'll do that right now in a minute. But he just has a lot of very typical and cool licks, but some jazzy things happening in it too. So what I've done is I've tabbed out exactly, as close as I could, the first verse with all of his cool little licks. Later on we hear this. And one of the things that blues, one of the characteristics of blues is the confusion of the major third and the minor third. And so like even right here, this first little hammer on, I'm playing an E7 chord, hammering on from A to B, and then hitting the D and the G sharp. Well, in the next measure, it's G natural. So anyhow, that's all the stuff we're going to talk about when we break down the 12 measures that I've written out of the tune. But to get started with particularly James' technique, he does a lot of unusual things in how he fingers chords and what he does with his right hand. But the main vamp is, of course, just this. I'm just playing one note, one finger, the open sixth string and the fifth fret, the second fret of the fifth string, an E and a B, essentially a power chord, and keeping it going with this shuffle rhythm. That's kind of the foundation of everything that happens over the E and A chords 1 and 4. And in our very simple 12-bar pattern, we would do that once. Now, sometimes he'll vary it with this. Bringing in the open fourth string with his finger in between the two downstrokes with the thumb. So in a shuffle rhythm, what we're doing is we're playing two parts of a triplet, where the triplet is splitting the beat into three parts, but we count that as an and, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But that's what this shuffle rhythm is. It's really splitting a beat into thirds and playing on the first third and the third third, not playing anything on the second. But when we hear this, there is my finger playing a note on the second third, and it's the open fourth string. So that's the main little variation that James does with these. So of course our standard 12-bar blues is E, A, E, and this is where, for two measures of E, where he would throw in some fills, which is that we'll get to in the later segments. Back to A for two measures. Back to E for 2. What he does for the B chord is it's not really easy to get the same little shuffle in there. So he goes to a B7 with a sharp 9. So you probably know a normal B7 chord. Well, if you move your little finger, from the first string to the second string, and play just those four notes, we have a ninth chord, B9. But the chord he uses as chord 5 in here most of the time starts off as a B7, sharping that 9, raising the C sharp to a C double sharp, making it a sharp 9. So that's how we get measure 9 of our 12-bar blues. Then he goes to A chord for measure 10, and this is where we have this cool little harmony in sixths. And what I'm doing there is playing an A7, but I'm not playing the third string. So I'm just pinching the second, fourth, and fifth strings, moving it up to a D and an F sharp, and then to an E and a G at the two notes of the fifth fret. So that's the little variation he does on his A chords. We'll talk more about that as we break down the tab. And then a turnaround, walking the bass up from our E chord to G sharp, A sharp, B. And then we hear the two magic chords. And now we're ready to head into the next verse. So there's just kind of a bigger picture kind of thing, and I will break it down a little bit more in a lot more detail in the next segment.